What's going on today, guys? Primal Sabbath here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Animal Warriors of the Kingdom Roma Collectibles exclusive Orva the Raider. This is very loosely based on the Pirate Lion or White Leo from Battle Beasts or Beast Saga, whatever you want to call it, which was a line of small, barely articulated rock, paper, scissors style action figures that were kind of connected to the Transformers brand. And there was even an episode of Headmasters where the Battle Beast planet was featured, which is pretty cool, and this is one of the characters that was featured. So before we really get into the figure, let's look at the card art, some of the stuff that he comes with. So let's see. Card art's nice. Again, just I like the way that some of these sort of independent toy companies present these with this kind of slip card, so you don't have to ruin that or cut any bubble or anything like that. You still have the let's see if I can get this to come up a little bit. The same kind of like Series 1 backing. The colors here are really nice, but you get the Spero logos all over. The back as well. I don't think there's any changes there from Scraps. Reviewed Scraps, which was basically like a Dragoon Raccoon homage. And Scraps and Orva are very similar. But anyway, so there's that. Then you slide this off, move that off to the side. You get a little baggie full of stuff, and this is where his sword was in this little bag. Now, the sword was bent whenever I got mine. I would recommend you run it over some, or run some hot water over it before you try to bend it back. You can, like I didn't do that. Do as I say, not as I do sort of thing. I just kind of, and like you can see here with the sai, I just kind of eased it. Like the sai, I probably wouldn't do that with. The sai I'm not super worried about. Like if they break, they break. But you can see that came out warped. That one also came out a little warped, but they're very sturdy. They're not overly sharp or anything like that. The axe came out fine, which is good, I guess. So it comes with an axe, and if you wanted to kind of troop build these, Roma was offering them. Oh goodness, a little ball popped out. Very Vitruvian hex style with the two-sided ball peg. This larger one goes in the head. The smaller one goes into the neck. Let's try to get that back up, and I don't know if it's gonna fit or not. Maybe it won't. It's supposed to. It's just hard to get in there. I'm sure if I stuck the one in on the neck first, it might go in on this one. But they offered it. You could get either a single figure, and it was $24.99 plus shipping. My shipping was $8, or you could opt to get 3, and you kind of got like a little bit of a bulk deal on 3, or you could have gotten 5 to get a little bit of a bulk deal on the 5. I don't know. I'm still trying to. All right, after fighting with a little bit, I finally got it in there. It's on pretty tight, which I like. But anyways, if you wanted to troop build them, you could have this alternate head, this helmeted head, so you could kind of have some guards or some warriors, or just kind of faceless troops essentially for them. And it is a different face altogether compared to the face that's on the character now. But I do like that. It's pretty neat. Not for me, just because again I got it for the Battle Beast homage. And I feel it does it pretty well. Like, it's definitely not, it's not a Battle Beast with modern articulation by any stretch of the imagination. It's very different in terms of aesthetic, but it definitely, it gets the job done, and it does what it needs to do. So let's carefully get the sword out of this hand. As you can see, I kind of straightened it back up. Sort of still has a little bit of bend in there, but overall, it's fine, I think. So there you go. There's the sword. Nice two-tone paint job on it. Pretty cool. So here's Orva. The pictures definitely made him look a little more bright, and it definitely, this kind of hair and beard and all that here, it definitely looked more yellow like it should have. I'm sure there's something there as to why it's orange and not yellow, probably to try to avoid any potential legal problems, and I'm okay with that. Ultimately, if it bothered me enough, I would just paint it, but it doesn't. I'm fine with it as it is. I think the orange actually kind of looks a little bit better. One kind of issue I have, and maybe if I messed with it a little bit more, would be kind of straightening up these shoulder armor pieces here. As you can see, it kind of causes his head to sit a little not so flush. I mean, speaking of the head, pop it out. But it looks like you can kind of sort of see here, like it looks like one of these is definitely, it's kind of like curved up here on this side, where this one is, the curve is back here. That may be just because it's the same piece but swapped. It's something I wish that maybe wouldn't have been so asymmetrical to begin with, because I mean, all the, like, you can see like the buckle is back here, where the buckle is right there on that on this side. It's just they just painted the red on the opposite one, so you're gonna have to kind of move them out the way and get them looking a little asymmetrical, which I don't like in what's supposed to be symmetrical looking figures. But overall, it's not terrible. It works. It's just and it kind of looks a little more natural, I guess. So real quick, a little bit of a rundown on these. These took a long time to come out, and this was definitely one of the more anticipated figures I was looking forward to this year. So Spero Toys kind of ran into some problems with the factory. The factory was holding their molds hostage. They weren't able to get stuff done. I don't know all the ins and outs behind that, but essentially they were causing some problems for them. I believe Boss Fight stepped in and kind of helped them out, which is really cool on them. Like, good on Boss Fight, 100% for doing that sort of thing. I think that's really cool that Boss Fight and all these other independent companies are kind of like, you know, looking out for each other. I think that's proper. So they got them hooked up with a factory to get their stuff out and going. So within that transition and to get this product out, maybe some things weren't quite fine-tuned the way that they needed to be. So real quick, I'm going to grab my Scraps figure here and just kind of show him off. So on video and even in pictures, still photographs, you really can't tell, but they are made from a different plastic material. And this really gets into the problem that I have with Orva. Now there's a problem there with both. Like, don't let that be a detriment to it. Like, Scraps was made from a more pliable plastic. Or the plastics he was made from were more pliable, where Orva is made from a more brittle plastic. It's a harder plastic. There were some people that were probably bending and rotating joints at certain areas, and it was breaking the figures. Mine, I haven't had that issue, but again, like, the shoulder armor is really going to get in the way of a lot of natural and decent posing, but mine is fine. There's nothing wrong with mine. This swivel was a little tight, and it still kind of gets hung up in there, but again, there's no issue. So if there is issue, run hot water over it, loosen it up. This shouldn't be anyone's first foray with action figures. Like, even 6-inch toys, you got to kind of do that with. But the plastics are definitely harder, and there are a lot of small, like, clearances on these figures. Most notably is on the hand, and it seems to be most common with his left hand, but I stuck the sword in there and the fingers just completely snapped and broke off. More or less, I was able to get in there with some liquid cement and some super glue, and I was able to repair as best I could. This is going to be an issue on all of these figures coming out of this new factory until it gets resolved, if it ever does get resolved. But like, even that, like, look at how just how small of a section it is, and they're all breaking at the same area. Since I've glued it though, and hopefully this won't make a fool out of me, I was able to still kind of wiggle the sword in on this hand. It worked, but I'm not very trusting of it. So for the time being, it's just going to stay like that. And as you can see, kind of comparably, there's this hand, but this hand seems to be fine. It seems to have a little bit more thickness there, and this one has a different swivel point on it, and getting the sword in and out of it is fine, although you can still kind of see, if I can get my fingers out of the way, you can kind of see some of that stress there along these knuckles. So I don't know, like I feel like Roma would make it right, but they did kind of put out the warnings like, hey, beware. So anyways, since we kind of have it zoomed in here, let's go ahead and look at the overall paint applications. The paint applications are insanely impressive. So since they didn't really go with like any new sculpting or tooling or anything like that, I feel like they got the job done getting the eye patch thing, just making it a paint app. Would have been cool if it could have been like an actual eye patch, but again, like being the reasonable collector that I am, like I'm okay with this. I think this totally works. Again, I feel the red on these shoulder pauldrons here was applied evenly and smoothly and without any issue. And of course, the orange for the hair, I think all works out fine as well. And kind of moving down, we have some two-tone on the blue, which we had some of that two-tone on the blue on the shoulders. You can kind of sort of see there. Again, everything's super clean, and it looks like he kind of has like a white dry brushing done to the fur. I think that's really awesome. But all the red and the kind of I guess, metallic blue, and the metallic blue all looks good. So everything there looks great. I love the kind of symmetrical design that he has with the armor, where Scraps was like a very asymmetrical figure. That said, a lot of these pieces are just very free moving, and thus are kind of easy to take. Well, the legs, actually, the leg armor doesn't come off super easy, which I like that. But this arm armor, it definitely slides around, and there's not really a good gripping point, but like once you get into the pose you want it to stay in, it stays there. It's fine. There's a kind of G.I. Joe style kind of rocker here in the torso. I don't know if it's I mean, it's got a swivel obviously, but I don't know if it goes side to side. I don't know if it's a proper ball joint or if it's one of those weird kind of like mushroom peg T-joint shaped swivels. That said, mine kind of sticks a little bit, so I'm not super into moving it around. So other than that, he's just got standard like 3 3/4 inch action figure articulation, and there's nothing to hate about that. Not in my opinion. Yeah, there's a no thigh swivel or whatever that a lot of 6-inch collectors are kind of accustomed to, but again, it's not really a big deal for me. You can kind of choose to set this hip armor up a little bit higher if you want to. I don't know. It's neither here nor there. But the sculpt on it's super nice. So there's that. Let's get him kind of situated. I believe I said he was the same base mold as Scraps, and he very much is. Like, I don't think there's any, other than the armor, of course, I don't think there's any molding differences between these two. So there is that. I guess if you wanted to try to replace your broken hand, if you got it, look for any other uses of this base mold. You probably have to do a little bit of painting. I don't think anything else is in this base color fur or skin tone or whatever for the plastic. Scraps is sort of close, but the hands definitely won't work. So there is that, and they do look good together. So let's do a couple of quick comparisons, and then we'll get out of here. Let's see. Let's go for an easy one. There's the Marvel Universe Wolverine, and speaking of Boss Fight Studios, this is one that I really liked. I think they called it the Wandering Warrior, but he was very barbarian-esque to me. I kind of have him as a stand-in Conan the Barbarian, just with my Marvel and just overall other 3 3/4 inch scale stuff. And because of that, I think he looks pretty good here. As you can see, I have him way more A-stanced out. There's that. And I think that's good for comparisons. I don't know if I have anything else that's overly different in scale. Those are mostly the 3 3/4 inch action figures I collect are in Marvel Universe type scale. I mean, I got a couple of Joes, but they're just not easily accessible from this point. So there is that. Anyways, final thoughts, man. Like, this thing cost me $32. I was super looking forward to it, big time. I think had the breakage not happened on this figure again, and if it would have been user error, I would have been cool with it. But I literally just slid the sword into his hand, and it broke, like broke. Other than that, man, the toy itself, like, it survived like a 3.5 foot fall from my table, like from standing up position, and nothing broke or snapped. Like, it's just a tolerance with that small amount of plastic, and I think that they need to kind of go back to the drawing board. I fear that the Tezkin figures from Night Shining Inc. may suffer the same. I don't know, but I guess we'll see when they get here. I'm still looking forward to getting those and kind of putting them on display too. Visually, he looks great. He can pose well on a shelf. He looks good just like this, but he even looks better holding the sword, which he can do in the right hand, which is, again, it wasn't any much of an issue. I'll go ahead and put that in now. There we go. Just kind of ease it on in there, you know. But, oop. There we go. Kind of point it down a little bit. Give it some character, right? But yeah, that's really. It definitely went from whenever I first initially opened it up to being like an 8, right? And now, again, after that breakage and having to worry about, again, the other hand, I'm sure it's inevitable. It definitely brings it down to more like a 5 for me. Again, as it is, just standing here, if you're lucky enough to get the sword in the hand, or maybe you don't even want to worry about putting the sword in the hand, that's up to you. I don't know. I think if Spero and or Roma does something to remedy that with some new pieces later on, like, I don't know how they're going to do that. You can get it only on Roma Collectibles eBay page. Just search for Orva, it should pop up. So again, I don't know how that's going to be handled or addressed. As far as moving the joints, it's fine. It's just the hands. The hands, I think, is the only thing that really, truly needs to be addressed. So at that point, make up your own mind if it's worth $25 plus shipping. To me, it is. I'm probably going to pick up another one just to kind of keep it minty and unbroken. Because that did kind of bum me out. I believe Roma would have made good on the broken hand issue had I really approached them to it, but I don't think it's viable for them as the supplier or even me as the consumer to even ask for that. Like, how many broken hands are they going to go through before they can get one off the body, and then is it going to break whenever I try to put it on this one? It's just too much there. So I definitely think Spero should be held accountable for that. Other than that, it's a great sculpt, great paint, great figure, great, awesome character homage. I hope we get some more, and I really dig this. So if you guys have any questions or comments, please drop them in the comment box. Hope I helped you make a pretty good, choice on whether or not you want to get this or not. And thank you all for watching, and I'll see you later.